Okay, so the first question we received is from Lamas. So, how easy is it for me to migrate my data from Excel to Xero? Okay, so that's a very good question. Now, if you're using Excel, if you're doing all of your accounting in Excel, effectively, a lot of the modules can be exported into Xero using CSV templates. So, for example, if you have invoices, you can create a CSV upload template, and then you can upload it into Xero. If you've got bills, you can do the same thing, and also manual journals as well. Now, obviously, the thing that it's not just a matter of uploading an Excel spreadsheet into Xero. You need to clean the data first. So obviously, we have experience of doing implementations for a number of clients. So the first thing you need to do is obviously make sure you put clean data into Xero. So you need to spend some time cleaning up your data in the first place. Once it's been cleaned, you can then export it into Xero using the templates required, and it's pretty much there. Now, I believe with BI, you can do the same thing as well. Is that right, Bharat? You can upload data using Excel templates?
Yeah, exactly. So we can have a portal setup on a public cloud or on a premise setup, depending upon the needs, where you can upload an Excel file, and Excel file can automatically fetch the data and push it to Power BI through direct forms or through batch mode. So that's what we can definitely look into, and is possible in a very easy and user-friendly manner.
Yeah, so I've kind of flipped it to obviously include a case study with Power BI. So for example, once you've uploaded your information into Xero and you're doing your accounting in Xero or you're producing your P&L and balance sheet, let's say you had some non-financial information that you wanted to see on a dashboard. So let's say you have your P&L and balance sheet, but then you wanted to see things like, certain volumes you may have or the number of customers. In this example, you would upload it using an Excel template into Power BI, so then you can see your financial information alongside your non-financial information as well. We just received another one. For customs reports, do we have to procure any additional software apart from Xero? If yes, is there an option where it is available as a service so we don't have to procure licenses? Okay, so for customs report, do you mean Xero reports or do you mean Power BI reports? So Xero, obviously, there's limited amount of customization you can do in reports. You can group certain account codes. You can add additional periods. You can restructure the format of it. But essentially, when we talk about customization, we talk about changing the reports completely based on the data that you've got. So, for example, let's say you've got your P&L and balance sheet. You may want to create a report that has elements of the P&L and elements of the balance sheet, which you obviously can't do in Xero. This is where Power BI would come into play, and this is where you can create your custom reports. Now, the question also mentioned, is it available as a service so you don't have to procure licenses? So obviously, you have to pay for the license for Xero, and you have to pay for the license for Power BI, but those licenses are not extremely expensive. You'd only pay for those licenses, and I believe, Barrett, if you correct me if I'm wrong, but with Power BI, once you've created a report, you can provide training so a user could create their own report. Is that correct?
Right. So, yes, you are correct that we have option of buying for the licenses for Xero as well as for Power BI. But also we can, as I just mentioned, that we can integrate with any other BI tool. So also we have options available where we can go for a model where a customer doesn't have to invest in licenses. We'll give them an environment which would be hosted on our cloud, and which is a shared environment in a secured manner, and without going for any additional licenses, we can have a subscription model where they can use that space, host their data, and generate those reports which are taking the data from the Xero and along with the non-financial data and giving them dashboards on their desktop or through a web link, depending upon their requirements. So we have that customizable options also available with us.
Yes, so obviously Citrus are quite flexible from that point of view, and they can help you. So I hope that answers the question. Any more questions? Okay, so we've got another question. Is it possible to link 365 Power BI with Xero? Office 365 Power BI with Xero. Barrett, I guess you're the best person to answer that question.
Yeah, exactly. So if in a Office 365, if you have a license of Power BI, as Office 365 comes with a lot of options. If yes, Power BI is available as subscription pack in O365, yes, we can use that licenses and connect it with Xero.
Okay.
But doing so, we have to understand how you are trying to integrate the data. Is it in a live manner, or are you trying to push data on a database? And then accordingly, we can give you the best possible solution. But the quick answer is yes, the possibility of linking is available. We just need to understand what type of licenses you are using.
Okay. I guess one of the things we want to stress to some of the audience is the fact that with Power BI, you effectively can have your own database where you can create your own table of data, which one of the sources could be Xero. And so obviously if you wanted historical data or data that was entered at a certain point and you wanted to bring that up on your reports, obviously that's where the database will come in. One of the ways where the database would come into play. I guess when we talk about live data and you're just pulling out Xero, I guess it's more, can I see what's in Xero right now using Power BI? So yeah, so you have a number of options. It's more about what's more specific to you and what works for you. I've got another question. The questions are coming in now, so that's great. We was waiting for some of these questions for a little while. Next question is it possible to use Xero for multi-location and multi-currency enterprise? Yes, it is possible. You do have, yes, you can have multi-currency entities within Xero. So this license will be the premium license that you would purchase around $40 a month, and you can use as many currencies as you want within that license. For multi-locations, there's two things you can do. You can buy an additional license for each location depending on how complicated the accounting is. If the accounting isn't too complicated, you can do it within one license. You would use the tracking, which is cost centers, for that. Again, we can go into that in a little bit more detail on a later session. So one of the things I'd like is if there's any sessions you want us to cover, feel free to give us some suggestions and we'll try to cover that. Next question is, can we use data extracted from Xero for more advanced analytics like forecasting and future budget planning? So this is a really good question as well, which we haven't covered. So I'll give you as an accountant, I'll give you my opinions and my insights, and then Barrett can tell you his opinions and insights. So for example, let's say you, an easy example is cash flow forecasting or P&L forecasting or balance sheet forecasting. So Xero obviously has the ability to record the historical data and data that are actuals. It does have the ability to enter budgets, but you can only enter budgets via P&L and by account code. Now, where Power BI or any other reporting tool will come into play is the concept of having your own database. So what you'd effectively do is you'd have a database where you would enter your forecast scenarios, and it could be a balance sheet, it could be cash flow, it could be P&L. And then what you would do is pull in the data from Xero, and then you can do a comparison. So you can do, actual versus, you can have actual versus forecast. You can use the data from Xero as your starting point for the forecast. And I believe if you really want to get technical, you can possibly do some not algorithms, but calculations within the database. So let's say, for example, your revenue in month one is $100,000. You may want to put in your forecast that the forecast for the next month is going to be 100,000 times 10%, and so then you factor in 10% in your forecast over the next few months by entering a rule like that. You obviously start making your calculations a little bit more sophisticated, but I think Barrett can then talk about the nuts and bolts in terms of how you would actually do that from a Power BI and database point of view.
Sure. Yes, Rian, you summarized it very well. So I'll just go a little technical. So how we can do forecasting is that since we have Xero data available to us, and we have captured that data in a form of a database, and assuming say we have this data for past 2 to 3 years, and we also have seen the trends in form of bank statements and the revenue, and also business has some variables in terms of revenue forecast, say of 5%, 10%. Using all these variables and defining into a statistical model, we can run different algorithms and do some regression and forecasting, and using tools such as say R or Python, bringing in that element, integrating with Xero and Power BI, and we can definitely generate some forecasting for the existing Xero reports, which can be really useful for businesses in doing their budget planning.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from an accountant's point of view, the most practical thing would probably be a cash flow forecast. So, for example, you would probably put your actuals for the month, which you would pull out, and then you can enter things like what are your planned payments over the next few months. What is your percentage of receivables that you would receive on a monthly basis based on the prior month's receivables balance? So I guess those kind of things you could factor in the algorithm. Now, obviously, bear in mind, the more complicated your database becomes, it costs a lot more to maintain, and so you need to make sure that you keep that into consideration. But this definitely can be done. It's more about what your requirements are and how you're willing to put time and effort into the investment of those types of systems. So yeah, I also want to just re-emphasize also is that this solution is not a one-size-fits-all solution. BI is very much a custom-built solution. So you would effectively dictate how you want to see data, and the likes of Citrus would go about making that happen for you. So there are analytic softwares out there where it's very rigid in terms of what you can do. We are giving you the solution where you have more, you have the control over how it's built and what it does. We've got another question that came through. So this question is, how long does Xero retain data in its system? Also, can we store extracted data outside in the custom reporting layer? So Xero will keep the data as long as you pay the subscription. So you can have as much data as you want. I'm not aware of any data caps. I've never come across any data caps in Xero in terms of how much data you put into the database. So that's from my experience, and obviously we're platinum partners. In terms of can we store extracted data outside in the custom reporting layer, I'll let Barrett answer that. He'll be more the expert from that point of view.
Sure. So the answer to this question is yes, we can store the extracted data, and how we do it, as I just talked a few minutes ago, using the APIs. So using the APIs, we are able to expose the Xero data and push it to a database, as I was talking about in the previous use case where we use SQL database. So it could be any kind of a database, and we can push that data, store that data into database, and on a month basis, we can keep adding data to existing database. And as we were talking about the previous question of forecasting, so once we have an exhaustive database available to us, we can use that existing data for further analysis and forecasting. So answer is yes, we can store the data and extract it from Xero.
Great. We've got 5 minutes remaining, so if there's any more questions you want to squeeze in quickly, we can answer them. We will be at the end of the webinar sending you an email just to thank you obviously for attending. We will obviously send you our contact details if you have any more questions in regards to Xero or Power BI. We'll also have the recordings of this webinar available for distribution as well. So we'll make sure of that. So yeah, any more questions? We've got 5 minutes remaining, and then we'll wrap it up. And yeah, please also give us some feedback in terms of the delivery, the format, technicals, anything that you could suggest to make this a little bit more easier and better. You can email us separately on that. Any more questions? Barrett, is there anything that you would want to wrap up, or is there, if there was one thing that you would want to convey to the audience, is there anything that you would want to just tell them, just so that they know, obviously more about BI, and what would be the main message that you would put across?
The main message that I can put across is that just again emphasizing on the fact that Xero is a really intelligent tool when it comes to doing the rule book accounting and giving the standard reports, which is helpful for various finance persons in any of the organization. But when it comes to using those financial reports or reading that financial reports by people who are taking business decisions, be it say at procurement or any other department, even at HR, sometimes it might not be that user friendly. And this is where we can bring the BI integration into the picture, where we can create easy to read dashboards, which gives insights and high level KPIs, which any business person is interested at the end of the day before taking any decision, be it at the procurement level, HR level, or even at a higher management level. So that's where I would say we as a citrus can come and help Xero customers, existing or the new ones, and then can give them a really intelligent decision making tool ability along with Xero. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. We've got 2 minutes remaining. I guess my final thought would be, cloud accounting has obviously it's not a new thing. It's been around for quite some time. But surprisingly, many businesses have still not adopted a lot of these cloud solutions for many reasons. Obviously, you've got data security, you've got, having a new system, those kind of things. We've just got another question come through. So we just had one more question, and then we'll wrap it up. Is there a number of users limited or unlimited on the premium plan? So I'm assuming that's for Xero. So for Xero, there's no limit of users. You can have as many users as you want. You only pay per entity. So every time you open a new license, you pay for that. So you can have as many licenses as you want. As many users as you want. And then Barrett mentioned the fact that Citrus can actually help you with Power BI. They can create an environment, right? So Barrett, why don't you talk about how you can help customers, with Power BI and with the number of users.
Right. So if this question, if I can read it from a Power BI point of view, that if a Power BI premium plan has unlimited number of users, so yes, Power BI premium plan has unlimited number of users, but again, that is restricted by the data set.
Right,
so
okay.
That depends upon the core capacity of the premium plan that comes from Power BI. So there has a lot of combinations that we have to run and come up with a number that how many users can log into that server, which comes with the Power BI premium plan. So definitely we can get in touch with you, do the math, and get back to you in terms of number of licenses under Power BI premium plan that you or your organization have already available with you right now. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. That's really useful. All right. We're going to wrap it up now. Again, please give us some feedback. We will email you our contact details, and we'll have the webinar ready for the recorded webinar ready for distribution. Thank you very much for your time. And yeah, we're looking to do this quite frequently, so we'll probably have another session maybe in the next few months. If you have any suggestions on any topics you want us to cover that to do with Power BI or accounting, please feel free to let us know and we'll take it from there. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.